kind of advice do you have to homeowners?
Practicing that preparedness. Starting the conversation now is always going to be a benefit to any association out there.
And welcome to Recovery Report Live. I'm Dan Odess with GlobalPro, where we manage your risk to recovery, and we have managed more than $1 billion of that recovery for business owners, community associations, and high net worth individuals alike. And we want to make sure that you have the information you could use. That's what this is all about. We want to make sure that we continue to deliver content to you that you can use, whether it's for your business, your community association, or personally, whether it's for your estate planning, whether it's for your family office, whatever it is, we have that information you could use. And today's show, we have lots of information about tech. Everyone's talking about Miami being the new tech hub. We are excited to have on a guest that is right in the middle of all the action. But before we get there, I want to obviously express our heartfelt, sincere prayers for the community. That it just this morning, many of us woke up to seeing the absolute tragedy of the collapsed building in the Surfside area. The community is obviously rallying around this, and a lot of information is we are learning is coming out every minute now. You see so many of our heroes right there on the front lines, pulling people from the rubble, doing everything they can to give information to the community. A lot of people potentially in that building where the collapse did occur. So we're going to continue to monitor the situation as well. GlobalPro is always on the front lines doing what it can to help the community, but we want to make sure that our efforts are meaningful and we're doing what we can to support all those that are there on the ground doing what they can to help those that have suffered this tremendous loss. It is a good reminder for those aging buildings, those buildings that are going through recertification, whether it's 40, 50 and on, to make sure that you take precautions, that you get the team in place that can help you in doing it. We're learning that they potentially were going through a recertification. This is a 40-year-old building built in 1981. So there's a reason why the Florida Building Code requires these sort of certification for safety reasons and for many other reasons to make sure the infrastructure is there, it's safe, it can continue to supply utilities and resources to its community and be a place for people's homes. These are people's homes. These are where people have their families and friends. And again, it's just an absolute tragedy, and we wish nothing but the best for those in this situation. And we will continue to monitor and do what we can to obviously support it. We've talked about it in the prior episodes. Legislation that got signed into law by the governor. We had two bills. I talked about that we will be issuing a memo regarding those changes. It is coming. Tomorrow it will be released. The final draft was submitted. We want to make sure that we break down and properly digest the information that's important to you as a policyholder. We don't just want to give you any information. There's a lot of stuff in the bill that is specific about public adjusting, about contractors, about insurance company reporting issues. But a lot of that is not really relevant and useful for a policyholder. Now, there are things in there that are to help protect consumers and help with regards to insurance companies and things like that. But we want to look at the issues that are relevant to you as a policyholder, making sure that you have the information you can use. So our memo is really going to address those things for policyholders, making sure that you have the most important information from those bills. Obviously, you'll have our contact information in there. If you have any questions about it, if you have concerns regarding your own insurance and what this may mean, I can tell you that on July 1st, a lot of things are going to change. So one of the things you will see in the memo is we will be stressing the deadline regarding July 1st and what happens on July 1st. A lot of things change regarding litigation, reporting of claims, having requirements of making an offer to an insurance company to allow them to inspect yet again and do all these other things that, quite frankly, we don't perceive them as being consumer protections. They were mislabeled as something that was going to save policyholders money. They certainly don't do anything like that. It seems to just prolong the process and also will limit your accessibility to advocates that can help you. There's a lot of changes, but it is what it is, and it's going to be in law, and so you need to be aware of it. You need to understand how it's going to impact your claims, how it's going to impact whatever it is that you're doing, and you have to make decisions, and you have to know what your rights and obligations are if you do find yourself in a dispute situation with the insurance company. Otherwise, it's not going to work out quite that well for you. Also, the tropics, very active. You had as early as this morning, you had a 40% interest area coming off of Africa, another wave, and one right behind that. But again, these areas of interest keep popping up. This is the hurricane season. This is 2021. As 2020 has showed us anything, you never know what to expect. It has been active, so we'll continue to monitor that situation as well. And through all of our outlets, whether it's social media or website, we'll make sure that we're pushing updates. And if we do get threatened by one, we will make sure that we send out an email blast and that we start to report to you from the studio, from the Griffin studio, all about what's going to happen, what to expect. Once you get into that 5-day cone, that's really when you need to be, activating those plans. But it's never too late to start planning. And it's a reminder that you should be planning in the event that something were to occur. And planning includes making sure that you have your supplies and making sure that you have access to records. And part of that is actually technology, right? Technology nowadays can actually help you plan, help make sure that you have access to these things and do these things. And as we've talked in prior episodes, GlobalPro and its team at Griffin Data Services is actually developing technology to help you in dealing with actual insurance. But our next guest has been developing a product based on legislation changes that occurred in 2015 and 16 that completely changed, I would argue, completely changed the landscape for community associations. And I'm super excited to have Carlos on today. He is the co-founder and owner of ONR App, and he joins us from Bogota. The weather seems to be pretty good behind you there, Carlos. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're having a little bit of audio issue there.
I'm very glad to be here.
A little bit of a delay, but that's fine. We'll work through this. I just want to jump into this, Carlos, and hopefully the audio thing works itself out. So I want you to tell us a little bit about ONR App, the clients, the use of it, and really what's the focus and core values of the company, and what are you guys trying to deliver to your users?
Well, thank you very much for that warm intro. Just to give you a bit of background on who we are, as you just said, 2015 and 2016 completely changed the way associations operate, especially in Florida. At the time, we were approached by one of our good friends who worked at a very reputable law firm who told us that there were changes coming on. And me and my co-founder, Alan Bukowski, we worked at Citrix Systems, actually the largest software company in Florida. And when we learned about these changes, being homeowners, condo owners, we decided, you know what? We know how fragmented the experience is. We know how difficult it is to have a good experience or the same experience that I get in my community on a digital format. We don't like to go into long meetings or licking papers in order to vote. That's not the way we roll. So we decided to take a stab at creating ONR App. So ONR App started off as a website for voting. And very quickly, we realized that people want more. So access to documents, easy access to documents, being able to participate in a survey or a vote from anywhere they may be, just became sort of the launching ground for us. And then as time moved on, managers, board members, and owners started asking us, I'm already using your app for communication, for record, for getting my documents, for voting. Why can't I reserve a common area or an amenity during COVID? Why can't I maybe tip someone? Why can't I pay for my association fee? And very soon, why can't I get in touch with my critical partners that can help me, like GlobalPro, like dry cleaners, and like others that can just enhance the experience of living in a condo?
That's awesome. And so, you talked a little bit about Citrix. How did you get started? Like where, I know you got that phone call where you talked to a partner, but where did you decide that technology is where you wanted to be, software development? How did you make that decision?
Well, it's actually a great question. Actually, we started off in Italy. We started off bringing, in 2008, believe it or not, a long time ago, RFID devices for time and attendance. And our first customers were Trump Towers and Sunny Isles, a few of the condos that we currently service. And that's how we started to really understand the problems that arise in those condos and to use technology for that. If you fast forward to today, of course, in 2008, iPhones and Blackberries were the normal, iPhones were not, and the technology was very limited. So the consumerization, for those of you who don't know what consumerization means, is us as consumers, we're driving the technology forward. We're driving innovation. And actually 2021 it is clear that the best technology, that the best innovation comes out of garages or companies, startups like ourselves.
Yeah, you always see. I love seeing those tech pictures on like social media of the Microsoft office or the garage and Amazon and a small little Bezo and sitting with a little Amazon handwritten sign or whatever. 2020 was just full of challenges. But what has been the biggest challenge for ONR App and its development? What is it? And in that challenge, was it a challenge for you or was it a challenge for your consumer? What has been that biggest challenge?
2020 was definitely a big challenge, but to us was more of an opportunity than a challenge.
Yeah.
For associations, of course, it was a challenge. Now owners couldn't come back to their second home, or they couldn't connect to their meetings, or they couldn't interact with management or get their notices because USPS and pretty much everything was failing around us. That actually led to most of them turning to ONR, this platform that they knew existed, and it was a nice to have before 2020. And it just became a must-have. So that brought the biggest challenge for us as a company. We went from servicing about 40 associations, 35 associations, to 120 in the market of just a few months. So imagine, we had maybe 3 customer service reps, we had maybe 2 salespeople. Right now, we had to grow that team to over 20 people strong. So that was a big challenge. I'm actually in Bogota right now in the process of interviewing and hiring some of those team members for the office here in Bogota. Having to travel back and forth every so often also is a challenge for me as well. But at the end, I only see opportunities from what is arising. Really, technology is not one of the ways for community associations to thrive, it's the way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the way that things are, people are just a reliance on cell phones. You have a supercomputer in your pocket, as a lot of people say. So, and being able to get that information right away. I mean, I think people's patience has kind of like left the building, if you will. But it also provides that immediate access. And so, when an association is deciding, the thought process, the decision to go to a platform like yours, what should they be considering and what should they be asking about or asking from you about your software and how it can benefit them?
Okay, that's a great question. So the first thing that we would tell an association to really look for is how are their residents interacting with whatever services they have. So we all know that everyone is used to using an application to do pretty much anything. Most of us use websites. So I can either do money transfer on a web browser very easily, but I love to have the ability to do so on my app as well. So we want to mimic that in terms of the experience that associations are delivering to the residents. If you notice, up until now, that resident experience at any association has been pretty fragmented. You want to participate in a meeting, you go on one app or on site physically. You want to vote, you have to send an envelope or go on another app. You want to reserve an amenity, you go yet on another app. You want to pay for your maintenance, there's another app for that. So what that leads to is the experience of me being a resident and an owner in my community, a completely fragmented one. Our approach is one experience, one community. So again, we want to encompass the all-in-one platform where we can deliver all these services. That does not mean we're reinventing the wheel for every service. We are connecting the best of breed products and services, ClickPay, Generate, so on and so forth, so that you, as the resident, as the owner, can just have this beautiful interface and everything just works.
No, it's really streamlining it. I mean, it just makes sense. I mean, and I can imagine everything from like laundry service. I heard there's like an app for that now. There's like every day there just seems like another app to get more information, everything else, and just I get like how many apps do you have on your phone right now that you actually don't use? I mean, I literally have hundreds of them. Because the fact is that I can either get the information from somewhere else, or I just realize that I only needed it that one time off, and then I'm not using it anymore. So it makes sense to kind of bring all that stuff together, have that all right there, centrally located, having all that information. So now,
and that is Daniel, in terms of the simplicity of access, right? But then the most important thing, once the association is ready, is security. Yeah. Because once you open this door, you really need to have security as the framework where you're working. And there are 3 areas where we as a company focus. The first one is architecture. Where are we hosting our services? Where are we dealing, what companies are we dealing with? So we pretty much deal with both. We have redundancy, Amazon Web Services and Microsoft Azure, so that in case that one were to fail, we have redundancy. That is one, right, in the architecture. Also, the processes, right? I mean, we need to have very clear processes in place, the two-factor authentication, the being able to authenticate a user that is looking for support in a way that is not going to compromise their data, so on and so forth. So the processes that we take and the education that we give our staff is paramount. And then people. We need to be able to hire the best people. We need to be able to hire the best talent so that we can keep security running. And one of the things that we have done since last year is ethical hacking. So we actually hire hackers and we reward them if they're able to hack our system. So that is one of the ways that we can actually sort of be at the forefront and actually work on a fire before it actually it's getting out of proportion. So those are just some of the things. Experience is paramount. Security is paramount. So once you have those two, then we talk about choice. Choice is, if I have a certain system and I wanted to migrate to another one, is this system going to allow me to do that, or is it going to lock me to a single vendor? We don't want that. You want communities to own their right of self-determination, to own their own destiny, and we just want to be the bridge that allows that to happen.
Now, we talked actually in the last episode, we were talking a lot about security. We're talking about the hacks and the things you hear about it constantly, right? And it's amazing how many community associations are just not prepared for it. And then from an insurance perspective, it's amazing how many are not even consider cybersecurity measures and cyber policies to protect their unit owner data and information, stuff like that. So, you're talking about things that, are totally probably foreign to a lot of community association management companies about, simulating hacks of your system and software to make sure that it's protected and demonstrating that you guys are doing, taking those steps. I gotta imagine it's gotta be more and more important to community associations, particularly when we're hearing about community associations actually getting hacked now. It's a real thing. It's a real risk. And managing that risk is so important. And I think platforms like yours that are taking the steps of doing it are so essential to proper management. So let's talk about the future of ONR. Like, where are you guys going next? Like, what are you hearing from your clientele that they need now?
That's an excellent question. Actually, the way things are evolving, we are right in the middle of this hyper growth stage. So whereas before we were adopting one or two associations a week, right now we're seeing actually tens of them coming on board, and that is leading to hyper growth. So what we're doing really is we're becoming a doctor in understanding the needs, the desires, the pains of associations to be able to come up with better solutions. Let me give you an example. Zoom, right? When you think about a hacker, you are very used to thinking of someone who has multiple screens and who's hacking systems. That's not the case. A hacker could very well be the realtor who saw the Zoom link on the elevator and now is joining that board meeting to know what to pitch to those owners. So we do things. We're not creating a new Zoom. We do Zoom, but we hide the link within our app. So that way you no longer need to promote and just publish that link everywhere. It's just your meeting is live, authenticate on ONR App, and enter. And nobody now is going to be able to access your meeting if they're not supposed to. What are we doing? As part of this hyper growth stage we're in, it really boils down to our core values and how we started as a company, right? The first thing that we stand for is simplicity. We wanted a simpler way to be able to have a great community experience. The second one is really transparency. We want more transparent communities because we know that once transparency is there, communities will thrive. And then the next one is truth. If we're able to make decisions based on real data, on true data, then our communities are going to be much better off. What are we doing in terms of that hyper growth? Basically we are doing a lot. We've been developing new features that associations are asking us. We're connecting with other service providers. So we're in the process of working with many leading community association software companies, including RealPage and others. And also we have become extremely active in the field. So actually tonight you can find us at the CAI Gold Coast chapter happy hour. For those of you who will be there. June 30th, next week, we'll be at the Broward Mixer for CAI. We'll also be at the CAI South Florida Expo in August. And you can also find us in Vegas the following week on the CAI Community Now. So what are we doing? We are just extremely
everywhere.
busy and trying to get our application in every association.
And no one's just going to find it by accident. You got to be out there. You got to be pushing. And it's awesome to have you on, Carlos. I know we have to share the stage just really as the pandemic was coming about, and last year 2020. So it's great to have you on the show. It's great to have you here with us. How can the audience find out about ONR App?
Well, the best place to do so is at onrapp.com. That's ONR app, app.com. And we of course will be sure to invite you to more panels like this, and of course through you. I mean, as one of our partners and friends at ONR, it's always great to be able to refer each other, to our customers. So I thank you very much for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I look forward to the next one.
Well, thanks again, Carlos. I appreciate you coming on, taking the time, and thank you to your team for arranging for you to be here today. I know you're traveling. I know you're in Bogota. I wish you the best of luck with your growth. It's exciting for me to hear that, particularly with Griffin Data Services and our own tech product that we're just launching. I mean, we are way behind you, and we're hoping to catch up and see it. But it's awesome to know that there's a need, there's a push, and it's great to see your success, particularly seeing. I remember meeting you guys in our office several years ago. And to hearing about all your success and your growth and everything else. So again, thank you for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward.
Yeah. All right, guys, that was awesome. It's awesome to have on people that are so forward thinking, that are trying to deliver better service. Transparency, talked about, it's really, really important, obviously, with our communities right now. But that transparency, obviously you need to measure risk. You need to make sure that you're protecting yourself from those risks. And finding leading companies like ONR App that are taking the steps to simulate hacks, that are doing these things, is so important. And it's important to ask questions about that, about your vendors. What are they doing? I mean, it's as simple as, it's simple to sign a contract. It's another thing to ask hard questions for them to demonstrate that they're actually doing what they're supposed to do to protect your information, your data on a daily basis. I mean, this isn't just something that, every so often we do a security check. This has to be part of their culture. It has to be part of their process. And you heard it right there from Carlos that's what ONR App does. I remember meeting with these guys early on and just thinking about how broad of an application it can be and will become. And it looks like they're just doing that. It's so exciting to have them on, particularly since we are working on the same thing here at GlobalPro with Griffin Data Services and the launch of Claims Calculator. Is to provide you as consumers access to information that you can use, making sure that there's a transparency, but doing it in a safe, secure way is so, so important. But that's all part of the process, right? And for over 10 years, as we continue to count down, we have been doing that here at GlobalPro, making sure that you have the information you need and can use. And transparency has been a big part of that, but community has also. And again, our hearts and prayers go out to the community. Champlain that just had that suffered that tremendous collapse. I mean, new information. I mean, I could see you over the computer screen. I'm just getting a lot of messages and notes. From early this morning, I was bombarded by a lot of people in the community that were asking about if we know someone, if we can get in contact with people who manages it, who's in the building. I was in contact with someone that has a number of clients in the property that they couldn't get a hold of. So again, this information is going to continue to roll out. We'll obviously going to monitor and do what we can. But guys, we're here to help. We're here to be a part of our community. We want to be a pillar in that community. That's why we have on people from Camilla's House, and we talk to other people with charitable organizations that are always doing that part. It's why we bring on companies like ONR App to talk about innovation and the technology and the products that they're putting out there. It's so important to make sure that you get the information you need, the information you can use, and that's what this is all about. So thank you again for joining us here on the Recovery Report Live. We'll be back next week with another guest to continue our conversation about all the things that you need as a policyholder, things that you need for your business, whether it's a community association or as a high net worth individual. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week on the Recovery Report Live.